Welcome to OneTake. We just got back from a screening of the Rocky IV Director's Cut, subtitled Rocky vs. Drago. Before we talk about that, quick introductions. I'm Gil, the voice of OneTake, here with my brother / tech guy, Alun.
Hey there.
And my other brother, Adam, that helps with various tasks behind the scenes.
Jack of all trades.
That's right, master of none.
Yeah.
Well, master of none.
And we should say at the top, spoilers for every Rocky movie and both Creed movies. We'll just say that at the top just in case. So for those of you that don't know the background on this director's cut, basically Rocky, Sylvester Stallone, was busy making a movie called Samaritan. That was shut down for COVID in 2020. So he was looking for something to do and decided to go back and recut Rocky IV. He basically spent 9 to 12 months going back through all this old footage and recutting the movie. So they just screened it in theaters along with a live Q&A with Stallone. It's going to be on video on demand and streaming, I believe on Amazon, they said, tomorrow. So we just saw it. We're going to talk about the Q&A. We're going to talk about the movie itself. But first, let's talk about Rocky IV just in general. What are your memories of it from childhood? So go ahead.
Oh, yeah, sorry. When I was a kid, I remember it being like my favorite. I loved it. I loved it. It just felt awesome. The fight was awesome. The montages were awesome. The music was awesome. But do you want to hear my thoughts later on or just when I was a kid?
Go ahead. Yeah.
All
How
right.
has it evolved for you?
Yeah, so I remember you telling me maybe 2 years ago, you were like, Alun, trust me, it's not what you remember. And I was like, no way, man. And then I watched it again. I was like, damn, you're right. It's like you probably remember my exact criticisms back then, but
right. That basically, as a kid, you remember the montages and you remember the fight, and you're like, what else is there in that movie?
Yeah.
And you rewatch it and you're like, oh yeah.
Yep. There's
nothing
very little
else.
substance beyond the very basic plot.
Right.
Yeah.
And that was so. Rocky IV was the first one I ever saw, and I only saw the second half. So Rocky had a beard during that montage. So my introduction to Rocky was him with a beard, and then when he shaved it, I was like, that looked weird to me, rather than the other way around. So that was all I knew of Rocky. But then since then, I became a massive Rocky fan. It's my favorite movie of all time.
We even have a poster up right over there.
Should have put it up here for the set.
Yeah, you're right.
But yeah, my favorite movie of all time. If you know the motivational speaker / is he from the Navy?
Yeah, Navy SEALs.
David Goggins.
Yeah.
He talks about how when he was going through SEAL training, one of the things that motivated him is remembering the 10th round of the first fight in the Rocky movie. And that really resonated with me because that was true for me too for years. Anytime I was working out or training, if I needed that little extra boost, I can just remember that one moment from cinema history. And it's amazing.
Well, that's the moment where Apollo can't believe that Rocky's getting back up to keep fighting.
Right. Rocky gets knocked down, and even Mickey, who's supposed to be on his side, is like, down,
stay down, Rock.
But he doesn't stay down. He gets back up. And anyway, so loses. Like you, what was that?
And loses.
That's right. Just by a hair, though.
That's true.
And then, like you, I went back and rewatched Rocky IV. And like I said before, as I remembered it, it was basically a bunch of montages, a big fight at the end. What else is there? And like you said, there wasn't a whole lot of substance. But in the Q&A tonight, Stallone, actually, before we go to this, Adam, quickly, did you have any particular Rocky IV memories?
So there were two. There was obviously like the whole physical training part that really appealed to me growing up, and I just thought it was so cool. Like I had the same feeling I had about Rocky IV as the feeling I had about Braveheart, of like you just go till the end, you never quit. Like you're ready to die to accomplish some goal.
Right.
When watching it in adulthood, it didn't quite give me the same feeling, unfortunately.
Right.
Yeah.
But in the Q&A, so let's talk about the Q&A first, and that's how it was screened. They started with about a 30-minute Q&A with Stallone, and then it went into the movie. And hearing Stallone discuss the movie and talk about why he wanted to go back and recut it got me really hyped. Because everything we're saying, he was saying.
Exactly.
He was talking about how he was a younger man back then, and he thought audiences would be bored. They didn't want it.
He was saying like he was making a 1985 movie.
Right.
And like just it was all about the lights and the action and that's it.
So he just wanted everything to move. Yeah, the robots.
Yeah.
He wanted everything to move very quickly. And that's what he wanted to correct. He wanted to bring back some of the drama. Some of the other highlights from the Q&A, I'll mention a few and then just shout out any that you remember. But he talked about the robot and how they got rid of it. And everybody applauded at that.
I was hoping for at least like a small Easter egg where you see it like in the background or something, but they just completely cut it out 100%.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I was hoping they'd give like a little nod to it.
Yeah, didn't even get a cameo.
Nope.
I also enjoyed Stallone saying he apparently regrets killing Apollo.
That was interesting because this was his opportunity to rewrite it. But then it would have made Creed not make sense then.
It also would have made this movie not make sense.
The budget might have been a little higher for the director.
True.
Yeah, to CGI in a new Apollo Creed.
Like, I can't believe you disabled him. They'd have to go like rework some of the voiceover and stuff.
Right, exactly.
Yeah,
and he basically said that what he wished he'd done is that Apollo just got absolutely destroyed in the fight, would no longer be able to fight himself, and then would sort of take on the training role for Rocky. Which I think could have worked. I mean, honestly, after Creed gets killed in this movie, it did feel like there was some spirit that kind of left after that point.
Yeah.
It just wasn't as jovial. I guess because Rocky was grieving was part of that.
Yeah, it could be.
I also like that at one point. So one of the things in this Q&A that was funny is that the guy asking him the questions seemed to really be in a rush.
Yeah.
He was in a rush, but at the same time, it took him like a full minute to get out a basic question because he kept interrupting himself and changing his words around.
Yeah. Well, so I wanted to ask you about, Adrian, but let's come back to that. I wanted to ask you about Apollo Creed. So he's in this movie. And, first, let's go back to Adrian for a second.
That's spot on. That's
he also literally interrupted Sylvester Stallone to ask him a question that he was already answering.
Yeah. Well, this is what you were about to talk about.
Yeah, I figured. That's why.
So let me get to that.
I didn't say what it was.
Well, let me, just like the Q&A guy, I'm going to get to that in a second. First, Kevin Dune in the chat says Rocky VII, Apollo Resurrection. I actually made that movie years ago for Spanish class. We were supposed to make a poster, I think, that would teach like a sport or something. And I raised my hand and said, instead of a poster, can I make a flash animation? And so I made Rocky 7. It might have been 6 at the time because I don't know if Rocky Balboa existed yet. But I made a Rocky movie where the premise was that Apollo comes back to life and Rocky can't box anymore because of the brain damage. So instead they play tennis.
I vaguely remember.
Yeah, I remember.
Like I have some stills of it in my brain. Do you still have that?
If I can find that, if I can dig it up, I'm going to upload it to OneTake. Bonus video. But if you think that sounds like a bad idea, let's talk about this.
Oh, yeah.
So Stallone says, I had an idea for a Rocky TV series. And then the Q&A guy goes, hold on, stop. We'll get back to that. We'll get back to that. And we were like, what?
We were like shouting at the screen, like, no, come on. Let him talk. Like, this is the most interesting thing he's about to say.
But basically what he did was, okay, I have an idea for a TV series. No, hold on, wait, we'll come back to that. So anyway, I heard that you had an idea for a TV series.
Yes.
And then that got me excited. But then he elaborated on the idea. And go ahead.
It sounded to me like the Rugrats. So he's like, basically you got like Mickey, but he's young and they're hanging out, and you got young Apollo and you have young Rocky, and they're all friends and they're like going through life together. But it's like a lot of them didn't know each other when they were young. Like I don't think Apollo and Rocky ever really crossed paths until they were both professional boxers.
Said that he envisions in the show that Rocky would meet Apollo, but he would look up at him and be like, maybe one day I could fight this guy. But he was like, it would be funny. Like the show would have a lot of comedy. Yeah.
I feel like they should just make that a cartoon like the Star Trek, like Below Deck or whatever.
Oh, yeah.
Just like a Rocky cartoon. Kids.
I probably won't watch it.
So my emotional journey through the 30-minute Q&A was hearing Stallone so passionately talk about this project that he spent a year on. Got me really excited. I was like, I liked Rocky IV, but now I'm gonna love it. Like he fixed the movie. Then he started talking about the idea for the series, and I think we all looked at each other. I was like, "Oh boy!" My confidence was shaken. Then Adam ran to get candy.
Yeah, I just couldn't.
He waited till the movie started. He had 30 whole minutes during this Q&A.
I know. I thought I could hold out. I was like, if I can just make it through. But then you gave me some popcorn, and it's
then you were like, "Don't give me any more popcorn. I'm just gonna want more." So I stopped.
Yeah,
but it was too late.
There was an awkward part where the Q&A finished, and then the lights shut off and the screen shut off, and so we were like, "When's the movie going to start?" And so that was the moment when Adam left for the popcorn.
Yeah.
Actually, all you missed was the way beginning where you see like in Rocky 3, him just throw his helmet at the statue, and then they showed it again later. You know.
So they actually. So let's get into the actual movie. So first, we said that the series idea got us a little worried.
Yeah.
Then the title appeared for this movie, and that got me worried too.
We weren't fans of that design. It's just odd. You have Rocky 4. And then under that, Rocky versus Drago, but it's all moving at the same time. So before you finish reading the first line, the second line's already like a third out off the screen. I mean, we knew what it said, so it's just weird looking.
For people that didn't see it, basically most Rocky movies begin with the title scrolling across the screen in big letters. But usually it just says Rocky 2.
Yeah.
But here it's a block of text that just says Rocky 4, Rocky versus Drago, and the whole thing floats across the screen.
And then what was funny is in the credits when it said title design, and there was like 3 or 4 people listed.
Yeah. So you put 3 people in a room, and that was the best they could come up with. Okay, but
so that I started sweating after.
I started sweating.
We all looked at each other.
Yeah, there was a lot of us glancing at each other during this movie. But okay, let's get to it. So, what did we think of this director's cut of Rocky 4? Who wants to go first? Just overall thoughts.
I never thought I'd have a chance to watch. Like the feeling I had when I saw Rocky Balboa in theaters was like, wow, I can't believe I'm seeing a Rocky movie in the theater, right? This was that times 2 maybe, because I'm seeing a classic movie I never thought I'd see in theaters. It's a movie I grew up with, and I'm actually sitting in a theater watching it, especially after like not getting to see that many movies in the last year.
There was a moment in Rocky Balboa where one of the guys watching from the side of the ring, the not announcer, commentators, at one point he just goes, I gotta say it, I can't believe it, I'm watching a Rocky Balboa.
yeah, exactly.
Awesome.
That is exactly what it feels like. That is what struck me too, and they did a great job of restoring the footage, so it looked great on the big screen.
Yeah.
There was a few things I wanted to compare back to the original right when we got back from the theater, and I pulled up Rocky 4, and it made me immediately appreciate how good the footage looked. So even if they didn't change the movie at all and just improved the footage, it would be worth the next time you revisit Rocky 4 to watch that version of it. But were you, do you have more to say on your overall thoughts?
Overall, so last time I saw Rocky 4 was probably like 2 or 3 years ago. So there weren't any major differences that I could perceive when I was watching it. Overall, like it felt like I enjoyed it. It felt like the editing was a little bit stilted or like clumsy at times, or just like things were moving so fast. But in the end, like the montages were good. Like it got me energized when they're like, when Rocky gets back up after, like, you know, he's on the ground, like it's pretty motivational. I would say it didn't like the climax of the movie. Something about the editing didn't give me that like yes feeling. You know, I was like, I was very close to it, but it just didn't happen.
Right. Well, it was really weird in this version. They cut it so Rocky loses the fight.
That might be what it was.
I would say...
Wait, pause for a sec. That was a joke, by the way. That was not a spoiler. The movie is basically what you remember. There are definitely differences we'll talk about.
It's more dramatic. I would say, in regards to the editing, I would say in the beginning, I noticed a few like weird cuts, but I felt like it got better after the start. Overall, I liked it. I think I felt better watching this one than the original. I really like all the... I mean, right before the movie, we heard Sylvester Stallone tell us the kinds of differences he made. So I kind of like went in with those in mind, and I felt like I really noticed it. Like all the slightly more character development, and I think a lot of it was very subtle, where it's like with Drago, the way they just like focus on his reactions to things more. Like in the original, he literally was just a robot. He didn't seem to care about anything. This, they like frequently like would go to him, so you see his reaction to like Apollo dancing and shit, and Rocky like entering the ring at in Russia, and anyways. Small change, but really impactful.
Go ahead.
I don't remember if this was in the original or not, but one just little thing that impressed me was when Apollo is basically dying in the ring, Drago looks back for a second and he has a little bit of a smirk on his face, and they probably have that in the original too. But just seeing it was like kind of almost disturbing, but like a really good touch.
Yeah, I mean, another thing, I don't know if this is a false memory or not. Maybe you remember. I don't remember them like showing from Drago's perspective entering the ring to see Apollo and everyone just dancing around him.
Fairly certain that was there.
Was it the same? Like they start underneath and
I think it was pretty similar. I can picture that in my mind. But I noticed the same thing. And I should just say overall, those are the kinds of differences they made in this movie. Like you'll see them advertise 40 minutes of new footage. That doesn't mean the movie is 40 minutes longer. It's actually about the same runtime as the original. It's around an hour and a half. But I think the biggest changes were in the first act. They cut out all of the robot stuff. And kind of replaced that with more character-driven moments. They brought in a few new scenes, a few extended versions of scenes. And then there were subtle differences like what Alun was describing, where you'll be on Drago's face a little bit longer than you were in the original. But those subtle differentes, like that really worked for me. I felt sympathetic to him in a way I didn't in the original.
I mean, to me, that is probably the like best improvement to the movie. Just the way they treated Drago's character with those subtle, very subtle, like camera movements.
Even during the Q&A, Sylvester Stallone said that Drago's a victim, which I thought was like when I was growing up, like he was like the enemy. You know?
That got me worried for a second. I was like, what's this going to be?
I was all wrong about this whole Soviet Union thing.
Right. The weirdest part of the movie was when Drago pulled out a laptop and was trying to hack into the election. He was trying to modernize the movie, make it a political commentary.
Although, I think Sylvester Stallone said something about not trying to have a message, and
he did say that. He said there's no message.
He was talking about this movie or the one who. All right,
yeah, he was.
Good.
So my overall thoughts, I think, pretty similar to what you were both saying, which is I think the first half especially felt significantly improved from the original. I thought that by getting rid of all the robot stuff, they made a little bit more room to focus on Apollo. In the first half of this movie really felt to me like it was about Apollo, his aging legacy, and his refusal to kind of accept that he's growing up and he can't necessarily keep fighting the way he used to. And I don't know that they actually added that much more Apollo to the first half, but at a minimum, getting rid of all the extra stuff I think made that stand out more. And I actually felt, but the one thing I kept thinking is that this felt a lot more in line with Rocky 1 through 3 than the original did. The original felt like you've got Rocky 1 and 2 especially are kind of quiet dramas. Rocky 3 gets a little bit crazy, and then Rocky 4 goes into mid-80s insanity. That was really tamped down. It felt like somebody took the movie aside and was like, dude, just chill for a second, okay? Just breathe a little bit. I felt that especially in the first half. And I think I felt everything I was supposed to feel, even during the Apollo fight where you know what's going to happen. Plus, we've seen the movie a million times. We know what's going to happen. But when you're watching a fight in a movie and you kind of feel yourself tense up, like you want to throw a punch, I felt all of that stuff. We also touched on it, his hubris when he comes in dancing to Living in America. We all kept looking at each other and laughing. But there was also like an undercurrent of tragedy to that. It gave me the same feeling I got, and no spoilers, but there is a scene in Game of Thrones where a certain character thinks he's going to win a fight. He's kind of overconfident. It doesn't necessarily go well for him. This really reminded me of that. So that was the first half of the movie. And then in the second half, I would say it kind of became pretty much exactly what I remembered. It was a series of montages. You have No Easy Way Out when he's driving. You have the first training montage.
I feel like the driving scene was longer.
It was, so I quickly went back to it right when we got back home and looked at the original driving scene. I don't know if it's longer or shorter, but one of the main differences I noticed is that he used a lot of black and white in the director's cut. So his memories, so basically, to remind anybody that doesn't remember, Adrian is mad at Rocky for wanting to go fight the Russian after he killed Apollo. And so Rocky kind of gets introspective and he goes for a drive, which felt very true to life.
In his Lamborghini.
Oh yeah, in his Lamborghini. It felt very true to life. But while he's driving around, he's thinking about his life, and you get a lot of flashbacks to the first 3 movies. In the director's cut, they're in black and white. That was the main difference I noticed. But you have all those. The second half of the movie is basically all montage and then fight. You have no easy way out. You have the first training montage. And as a kid, what I remembered was there were 2 training montages. There was one, and then later there's another. But they're literally one right after the. It's basically a 2-part montage.
I feel like it was one montage, just with a break in the middle of when he sees Adrian.
Right.
Came to Russia. So really, it was just an intermission.
Yeah, which I think in my child's mind, I just when the training montage stops and it's just dealing with drama, I was like, come on. It probably felt like an hour, but in reality, it's about 4.5 minutes.
Yeah.
And then you get back to the montage. And then we get to the fight, and I was kind of like, wow, we're at the fight already.
I couldn't believe how fast we got there.
And that was the feeling I had when I watched the original Rocky IV. So I think overall, it's an improvement over the original, especially the first half breathes a little, has more drama. I would say the second half, I'm sure there are differences. I know he recut the fight in certain ways, but at least in the general feeling of it, felt a lot like the original. Though I don't know, and you might remember it a little bit more than Adam does, but the montages and the fight both did feel a little bit calmed down in a sense. Like maybe some of the takes were longer, maybe there were fewer 80s style effects. The music even seemed a little bit quieter to me.
I don't remember. I mean, the training scenes, I didn't. Nothing stood out to me as different. Like, obviously, I haven't seen it for the original for a while, but I felt like I got the exact same feeling watching this one as the original.
It might have just been lingering effects from the kind of slower first half of the movie.
Yeah.
So those would be my overall thoughts. Great first half. Second half also great, but I wouldn't really say it felt all that different from the original Rocky IV. There were some funny things where people were trying to sort of clap in the theater.
Yeah.
And it felt like people really wanted it to happen.
Yeah.
There was like a small contingent of people in the theater that wanted this to be like a Rocky Horror Picture Show where everyone gets really into it. But I feel like it didn't really work. It would be like a slow
I was
clap.
ready. So I was ready for it in the fight, like the final fight. But for I don't know if something changed. I need to go rewatch the original fight and see if it suffers from the same feeling. But like that moment of triumph where I was like ready to actually start clapping, it didn't happen. Because it almost, I feel like the point where Rocky ends up winning, you have like 30 seconds of lead up where he's just clobbering Drago, and so it's less impressive.
I mean, part of it could be the fact that we already know exactly what happens. It's just been recut a little bit. I mean, like, I also like, I really wanted to feel that too, but I think part of it is subconsciously. It's like you already know exactly what happens.
I don't know, but it hasn't stopped me from feeling that satisfaction I've had from this movie before. So it could be that I've changed, or it could be that the movie changed. I need to see.
Yeah, exactly.
I feel like I'm talking to Apollo Creed here, Adam. You've got to accept that you're growing up. I think that's all it is. I think if you go back to the original Rocky, part of what makes that final fight so impactful is because you spend an hour and 20 minutes watching this guy, life just crapping on him for an hour and 20 minutes. And he's got so much to fight for and so much to prove. So when he falls down and has to get back up, there's so much emotional weight to that. Versus here, his only struggle is, getting over Apollo's death. But I feel like most of that struggle is pretty unstated. There just isn't as much emotional, dramatic weight in the final fight. It's like an 80s action movie. So I think we're just growing up. So with that,
That's depressing.
Still really liked it though.
I still liked it.
It was still, it'll never not be awesome when you do the intercutting between Drago doing all the crazy, fancy equipment versus Rocky working out. He's
chopping down
wood.
trees. Yeah,
he's stopping to help somebody get their horse that's stuck in the snow. So that'll never not be awesome, and it was great. It was. My main point is that it just wasn't that different from the original in the second half.
Man, they sweat a lot.
They do. Yeah. A few standout moments that I really enjoyed were Paulie, who kept grabbing Tony's
that was
head.
funny.
Oh yeah, he did it twice.
Yeah, that was a lot of fun.
I love it when they got to Russia and he goes, "This is a good place to die."
Yeah.
So One person in the chat says he didn't feel like clapping because he knew what was going to happen.
So that's what I was saying.
Yeah. So we've got a few working theories.
I wanted to clap. I was like, I knew it was going to happen. I'm like, oh, I'm definitely going to clap. But I didn't feel it. I didn't, the emotion just wasn't there.
Yeah. The craziest part was the after credits sequence.
Oh, yeah.
Where
comes
they
back.
put
Apollo
Rocky's
back.
brain in the
But
robot.
what were you going to say?
Yeah, Rocky's brain goes in the robot, and
then Apollo gets Rocky's body.
no, Paulie does, because he said, if I could unzip myself and
but then afterward he changed his mind though.
That's right. Yeah. There is no after credit sequence, by the way.
Sorry.
We did wait. Now, to be clear though, I didn't think there was going to be an after credit sequence, but I thought maybe we'd go back to the Q&A and Stallone would be like, "Hey, thank you for watching."
Nah, man, he's in bed now.
Yeah, probably. That was cool, the Q&A thing.
Yeah,
it was literally
he was like more open and like forthcoming about stuff than I was expecting.
Yeah, Stallone is actually an awesome. Like I was saying before, I don't know why he hasn't guested on Joe Rogan before.
Yeah.
I remember one of the great memories I have from when I was a kid is AintItCool.com, a now disgraced movie journalism website. They basically had an ongoing Q&A with Stallone where users could submit questions and then they would email them to Stallone and he would write back. And I had the same reaction then as I did to the Q&A he did tonight, where I love listening
He's
to
a very
him talk.
thoughtful, he's like much more thoughtful than you'd expect, just given the way he sounds and like that roles he plays. And
he has the ability to motivate you the same way Rocky did. Listening to him talk about how tough it was to get Rocky made, just like that charged me up.
It also feels really good to hear him say, like you touched on this before, but like he sees the exact same issues in Rocky 4 that we saw. He sees the exact same issues. Like he also admits that Rocky 5, is not a very good movie.
Right.
It's like it's good to know that he is aware.
He's like, he wants to like make improvements.
Yeah, and you could see because then he worked on Rocky Balboa and he worked on Creed, which was awesome. Creed 2 wasn't as good as the first one, but both good.
Yeah.
First one was awesome.
Yeah, I'm a little bit worried about the third one.
Because he's not involved in the writing?
Stallone's not involved in the writing?
Right? I'm asking,
I think he might be. I don't know. I'm just worried that it's diminishing returns.
Okay, I see what you're saying.
But anyway, I'll point out, just for those curious, some specific differences I noticed between the director's cut and the original Rockies 4. Number one, the director's cut starts with a sort of montage that summarizes Rocky 3. You basically see Rocky fight Mr. T. Mm-hmm. Then you see him have the conversation with Creed where he's like, you got to get the eye of the tiger. Then you see him beat Mr. T. And you see him throw his helmet at a statue. I think you see that twice.
Yeah.
And then I think you see it a third time in the movie. I feel like during a montage.
At least twice.
It cuts back to every 5 minutes.
That's how they made this movie. Well, actually, it's not longer, but...
We also have a conversation between Rocky and his kid, where the kid asks him if he's scared. He's like, listen, sometimes in your life, people are going to not want you to do something, but you got to do it because...
Yeah, he's complaining about Adrian.
Pretty much. Yeah.
To his kid.
Your mom's going to say some stuff to you. She doesn't know what she's talking about. But in the Q&A, he said that was an improvised scene. I think there was some stuff written, but he ended up just kind of riffing for a little bit longer.
I really liked that scene.
Me too.
Yeah.
It was great. He basically, the one line that stuck out to me is he said, at some point, you've got to live for yourself because you've got to live with yourself.
Yeah, that was the line that I liked.
We've learned that the hard way.
He was telling his kid this lesson, and obviously, Adrian overheard it. So after that, I thought she'd be like, I'm sorry, Rocky, you're right. You got to do you. But no, she's like, don't leave. It's like, did you not hear all that?
Did she hear all that?
I don't think
she was outside, the door was open.
I don't think we were meant to believe that she was eavesdropping.
I mean, as soon as he came out, I'm not saying eavesdropping, but as soon as he came out the room, she's standing
she's
right
like fumbling with the stethoscope, she's
listening to all that from under his bed. You didn't see a thing. Alon's like the people that watched Breaking Bad and would complain about Skyler. Like, why won't you just let him be a drug dealer?
Yeah.
Yes, they're the same thing.
I already mentioned No Easy Way Out, how the flashbacks were black and white. Big difference.
Yeah, I like that.
Mm-hmm.
And then I think as Stallone's gotten older, he's gotten more and more of an appreciation for black and white. Because I remember noticing the same thing in Rocky Balboa. He was doing flashbacks, and it was like black and white and other different color filters.
Well, it had me questioning. I was like, wait, was the original Rocky black and white? Like, I actually couldn't remember. And I was like, I'm pretty sure it was color, but now I'm not sure.
Wait, are you talking about the remake or the original 30s Rocky movie? Just kidding. There is no original 30s Rocky movie. By the way, so Integrity here is coming in with some differences, some subtle differences he noticed too. The Russian leaders didn't clap. Drago's wife didn't approach Adrian. Oh yeah, I do remember that scene in the
I
original.
felt like his wife had less to say in this one.
Drago's wife? Yeah.
Yeah.
I remember her having a bigger role.
Yeah, here she didn't have any lines of dialogue, maybe one or two. But yeah, I remember noticing she was barely in it.
I forget. She was in Creed also, right?
Creed 2.
Creed 2, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then, she like doesn't want Drago.
Yeah.
And then when he's starting to win the fight, she does.
Yeah.
And then he loses and she's like, I'm out of here. Then you really feel bad for Drago.
Yeah.
He also mentions that Stallone, this is a good point. The reason they brought in the Rocky 3 intro is because they want to show you the origin of the Apollo-Rocky friendship. Which, I mean, not to be a broken record, but the thing that really worked for me in the director's cut was focusing so much on Apollo in that first half. Like, I kind of said it a few times, I feel like there isn't as much dramatic weight in the second half of this movie. But if the first half, it was there. Like, Rocky trying to convince his friend that he's got to leave it behind. He's getting too old to keep fighting. He can't go up against Drago. I loved all that stuff. I started to think back. I was like, is Rocky 4 better than I remember? Again, not that it was bad, but did it have more substance than I remember? And it does, up until it kind of goes into montage mode.
I thought the funeral was good.
Yeah, and that was the other change I was going to mention. One of the other big changes is that Apollo's trainer, Tony Evers, played by Tony Burton, he gives a small speech.
Yeah, I liked that speech. I thought that was good.
Yeah, me too. I thought that worked really well, and that was something that was cut out of the original. So that I thought was a great addition. Any other overall thoughts or any details that you noticed that we didn't mention already? No, pretty much covered it.
Well, I mean, it's not specific to this. I love the training scenes in this movie.
Yeah,
it's just amazing. And I remember all of us we're thinking we gotta go work out more after that movie.
80 minutes earlier, Adam was like,
I need candy.
He ran out
and then he's sitting there with his candy like, what have I done?
Once the training montage started, I was like, I'm not having candy after this.
Yeah, you guys keep watching. The next time you turn on the stream, my biceps are gonna be bigger than his head, and we're going to be working out like crazy after watching this movie. And Adam, if you have anything that could help that process,
you can talk to the Russians.
That was a joke. I'm trying to think of anything else. I mean, I feel like that was... I mean, if you like Rocky 4, I would say go see this in theaters, but one night only, unfortunately. It made me wish they would do more stuff like this. Like just the opportunity to go see... Oh yeah, one thing I wanted to say, what this reminded me of, is we'll a lot of times watch video game streamers that will play retro games and they look for reasons to go back and play those games. Like I've beat Mario Brothers a million times, so I need to invent a reason to go back and play it again. So they'll say, okay, let me play it again, but I have to beat the game without touching an enemy or without getting any power-ups. That's what this felt like to me. It gave me a reason to go watch Rocky 4 again. It's not a different movie. It's the same movie. It's a little bit different. But it gave me a reason to watch it again, and awesomely, it gave me a reason, a way to watch it in theaters, which was very cool. It made me wish they would do this for all the Rocky movies. Yeah. Kind of like Star Wars, the special editions, because that went over so well. People love that.
They're going to replace all the boxing gloves with walkie-talkies.
Yeah, it's too violent. Instead, they're going to sit down in the ring and just have a very stern discussion where they work out their problems. Yeah, Integrity 101 says that both fights were also significantly improved. Yeah, they did. That's kind of what I was getting at before. I can't point to specific differences, but they felt like they were cut with a more mature eye. Like maybe some of the takes were a little bit longer, a little bit less flashy. Kenneth Terry says, when will this be available on DVD and Blu-ray? This was absolutely awesome. So all I know for sure is that it's going to be online streaming tomorrow on Amazon. And so you are mere hours away. I don't know what time it's coming out. Amazon usually releases their stuff at midnight Eastern Standard Time, I think. If not, they might go the way of Netflix and do it at 3 a.m. Eastern Standard Time.
So check in 25 minutes.
Yeah, everyone stay up. Here, we'll stay here with you. We'll just wait here quietly.
Refreshing.
Refreshing to see when it comes out.
Someone in the chat mentions Paulie wearing Adrian's earmuffs.
Oh yeah.
I love all the little jokes in the movie. Paulie's like great comedic relief.
Yeah, so I don't think that was a moment in the original. But when they first land in Russia, they get off the flight, and Paulie's got these earmuffs on, and Rocky's like, "When did you take Adrian's earmuffs? They look better on me." Yeah, Mark says the fight scenes were a little bit extended. So yeah, it's like I said, that was the feeling I had, but I haven't done a full rundown of all the exact differences. Integrity 101, by the way, he has another comment here saying that adding the Rocky 3 scenes was crucial. Now you get the full story of the Apollo-Rocky friendship in one film, how their friendship began, what they accomplished together, and its tragic ending. Yeah, I mean, again, broken record, but that's basically the first half of this movie, and I thought it was awesome.
Well, and it reinforced what Sylvester Stallone was saying in the Q&A about how he wishes he didn't kill Apollo.
Yeah.
Because like their friendship, it's awesome because they start off as enemies, and like it really doesn't last very long until Apollo's killed off.
Yeah, one of the things Stallone said in the Q&A, one of the reasons he regretted killing Apollo, he's like, Apollo was Rocky's friend, and Rocky doesn't make new friends.
Yeah.
So he's kind of running out. And then Adrian dies in Balboa, and then Paulie dies, and you get to Creed. And
So he didn't really learn his lesson
No.
after killing Apollo.
Well,
he just
I
kept
remember
killing everyone else.
So I remember him talking about Rocky Balboa, and the reason he decided to kill Adrian is because he couldn't think of what to do with her besides her just once again being
You can't do it.
Yeah, you can't do this, Rocky. It's not healthy. Yeah. So it was like, we've seen it before. And I think I see in Rocky 4, what would the dramatic stakes be in the second half of the movie? It was hard for me to think of anything other than her trying to stop him from fighting. But again, we've seen it before, even by the time you get to Rocky 4. So in this movie, she tells him, don't do it. A couple montages later, she comes back and says, I'm with you till the end. And I'm glad they wrapped it up quickly, but I just don't know if they had anything else to replace it with.
But she doesn't just say, don't do it. She says, you can't do it.
Right.
Yeah.
She tells him, you can't win.
Yeah.
That was another little difference he made, by the way. So there's a great scene where she's standing at the top of the stairs looking down at Rocky, and it's all dark and very somber, and she basically tells him, you cannot win against Drago. And then Rocky kind of looks down pretty upset, and he looks back up and he says, Adrian always tells the truth. That was a longer take, where before he kind of said that immediately in reply to her, and here he kind of takes a beat to look down and think. So those were a lot of subtle changes like that kind of just gave the movie that more dramatic feeling. Or Mark, another funny Paulie moment. Paulie saying the Russian driver looks like Dracula's cousin.
I didn't pick up on that.
I was actually it's funny you say that, because at that moment I could tell it was kind of hard to hear. So I was going to lean over and be like, he said that he looks like Dracula's cousin.
I'm glad someone told me eventually.
There you go. Me and Mark. Kenneth, by the way, says, Sylvester Stallone is very creative Hollywood genius. The guy just has an awesome mind. Yeah. I agree. I wish... The one thing that makes me so sad to read is that when the first Rocky came out, Roger Ebert did a review, and he said that Stallone is the next Marlon Brando, and that did not pan out. But I just feel like Stallone has so much writing and acting talent. We've seen it here and there, but I wish we saw more of it. And I think we still will see a little bit more of it, but he's in his 70s
Well,
now.
he was saying, like, if he directed something, he would want, like, a young co-director. So I don't know if he feels the same way about writing. Like, I don't know how much time he wants to dedicate to that.
I don't. So basically in the Q&A...
He looks great for his age. What is he, 70-something?
I think he's 70-something. Yeah. But he, a couple things. So... They asked him if he would be interested in directing anything again. The last thing he directed was The Expendables, at least according to the Q&A guy, who I think his knowledge is questionable. But Stallone basically said, like, there's a lot of good directors out there. I don't know how much I have to add to the mix. So he seemed kind of like, and also it's a lot of work, where you would have to go away from your home for 50 plus days to direct something. He's just like, I don't know if I want to do it. And he didn't say it outright, but I have a feeling he kind of feels the same way about writing, because when he had the year off from the movie he's working on, what was it called? I forget, that superhero movie he's in, Sumerian. He said, I could write something writing's a lot of work, so I decided to recut Rocky 4.
So, I mean, he can stick to acting. I mean, like when he played the shark in Suicide Squad, he was awesome.
Oh, he was great.
Hand.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, another fun thing from the Q&A. He talked about some of the original choices for Adrian. So Kevin Dunn in the chat says, glad we didn't see Bette Midler as Adrian. Hey, she might have been great. Who knows? But Talia Shire kills it as Adrian. And then Integrity 101 says, Rambo 2008 was one of my all-time favorite Stallone films. I don't remember it too well, but there's one
I know
line.
there's like a death count. It's like over 200 people in it or something.
And in the first Rambo, I think he killed 0 people, maybe 1 by accident.
Yeah.
But there's one great line in the 2008 Rambo where he said, when you're pushed, killing is as easy as breathing.
Yeah.
Great line. I feel like you wanted to say something.
No, I just I don't know if I've ever actually seen a Rambo movie just sitting down straight through. I feel like I've only like watched some on TV.
We all as a family sat down to watch Rambo probably 20 years ago.
I fell asleep.
I was the only one who stayed up for the whole thing. But it was one of those things where I was like trying so hard not to fall asleep. We were very young at the time.
And we probably started too late in the night.
Like we usually do.
Let's go watch Rambo right now.
Yeah.
Okay, come back to OneTake in about 90 minutes.
Yeah, he'll get our Rambo reaction.
Kenneth says, when Drago is interviewed after killing Apollo, he chants out his own name.
That was, sorry, I just remembered when they were like, can't Drago speak for himself? Yes.
Oh yeah, that was
all he
hilarious.
said. Oh, let me ask you this. What's your opinion on, at the end of the training montage, Rocky gets to the top of the mountain and he yells, Drago! Which he does in the first one too, by the way.
Yeah.
It's subtle, but he yells, Apollo!
No.
Yeah, I swear.
I thought he yells Drago twice.
He does.
Wait, what? When did he say Apollo?
No, in the first movie
You're
he says
saying he
Apollo.
said-
You're saying
Really?
they changed it?
No, oh, sorry. In the first Rocky movie.
Oh.
Not in the first Rocky 4 movie.
So in the first Rocky movie, he yelled Drago?
No.
So this is a trend where when he like reaches the top, like he screams out the name of his enemy.
Yeah, that's right.
So wait, in the first
All
one,
right,
top
so
of steps?
there's a precedent for it.
Right.
It feels a little cheesy or like Khan, you know, but at least like there is a precedent.
There were 2 moments in the first Rocky movie that stand out as a little eye-rolling to me. That's one of them. And then the other one is after the fight. Apollo and Rocky are kind of like hugging each other almost, like both falling down. And there's one line where they're both looking away from the camera. So you can tell it's like an overdubbed line. And Apollo says, ain't gonna be no rematch. And Rocky goes, don't want one. But if you listen to it, it just sounds like they're recording in another room. It just doesn't sound right. And it would have been better if they left it out because in the next movie they have a rematch.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I think we're starting to wind down. I think one thing I would love to see is a Drago spinoff.
Yeah.
I felt the same way after Creed 2.
That would be cool.
Even exploring the relationship between him and his son. Like, I thought in the same
It's going to
way.
be a sitcom of him, his wife, and...
That seems like an
good.
idea that Stallone would like, based off his Rocky prequel idea. But after the... actually, quick funny story about Creed 2. I was in an Uber a couple of years ago, and it was me, my friend, and then the Uber driver up front. And the topic of Rocky came up, and the driver was like, Rocky was kind of crap, whatever. But he goes, Creed 2? Creed 2 is the greatest movie of all time. And I'm like, I don't know. It was good. It was like a pretty good movie. He's like, no, it is the best movie of all time. Hold on, and then I'll tell you why, though. He's like, listen, in that movie, how does Drago wake up his son? He freaking punches him in the face. Like, you got an alarm clock? He punched him in the face. It is the best movie ever.
So one scene makes an entire movie the best movie ever.
Yeah.
I mean, it is an awesome scene, but, I mean, overall, the first one's better, so the second one can't be the best movie of all time.
And he didn't care for it. So... Anyway, so there we go.
How can you like Creed 2 and not at least like the Rocky movies?
No, he said I think his exact words were, they were crap. I think that's exactly what he said.
Huh.
A couple more comments in the chat, then we'll start to wrap up here. Integrity 101 says, is there any doubt that this director's cut is the definitive version of this film?
Well, I mean, in the Q&A, he said that he actually wanted to keep making edits.
Oh, that's true. They kind of made him stop.
Right, he was working on it for almost a year, and MGM was like, "You gotta release this thing, okay?" I think that's such a classic thing people say about making movies is that you never finish making a movie, you just release it. You could always keep going over it with a fine-tooth comb. Stallone paints, by the way, apparently. We also learned. He said that anytime he's working on a movie, he paints the character.
That's cool, but I also feel like every rich person eventually starts painting. That's just how I feel.
Yes, I've taken up painting recently. I also drive around on my Lamborghini and think in black and white. Michael Smith, this is probably my Uber driver. He says he prefers Creed 2 over Creed 1. So there you go. Mark says the meeting with the boxing commission was interesting. Oh yeah, that was another scene that was not in the original, but got added for the director's cut.
So I overall liked the scene, but...
Well, first, for people who haven't seen the director's cut, set the stage. What was the scene?
Well, it's like a bunch of big wigs and people in suits and people who organize all the fights and everything. Mm-hmm. And they're all there at the end of this long meeting table. And then the boxing commission. And then you have... Rocky just there trying to explain why he wants to do this fight, and they're just not letting him. They're just saying we're not going to allow this. But in one part that felt a little bit childish was Rocky being like, "Is that because like you don't think I can win?" Which to me, I got the sense that wasn't it at all. It's just like for whatever reason, either the regulations that they're using or the fact that this guy just killed someone in the ring in his first fight.
Right.
Like. There's a lot of other reasons why they might have tried to put a stop to it.
Another thing with that, it felt like they had that scene to explain why they can't have the fight in America.
Right.
But then when the reporters were talking to the Russian dudes, they were like, we fight in Russia or we fight nowhere. Yeah. So it's like, that didn't matter. Unless they're only saying that to cover up for the fact that the Americans didn't want to fight the fight in America.
Possibly, but so that's what Mark said in the chat here. He could see why it was cut out, and I totally agree. I don't think that scene really belongs in the movie because I had the same reaction. I figured, okay, this is leading up to why they had to take the fight to Russia. Then you have that explanation. It just felt confusing a little bit. It was basically a table full of Adrians. Just telling him he can't do it, It was funny, though. They basically remade that scene in Rocky Balboa where they tell him he's too old to fight. But then that one ends with him crying and telling them, they can't. You can't. What about the first? What's the amendment that's about pursuit of happiness?
That's the Declaration of Independence.
It's funny. He's like, what about the Declaration of Independence? Doesn't that say something about doing what makes you happy? And they're like, you're talking about the pursuit of happiness. And I was like, is that really a necessary correction? I feel like you kind of got the point. Eric Flo asks. He says it's going to be on Amazon tomorrow. That's right. So this is releasing on Amazon tomorrow. Okay, last thing. This is what we're going to wrap up with. If you had to pick another Rocky movie to undergo the same treatment, get a director's cut, which would you pick?
Rocky 5. I want to see if they can make it good somehow.
I don't know, man.
They probably, no amount of footage that they have in storage could probably help.
Because the first three are all like pretty good. Mm-hmm. Like, and when I watch them, I'm not sitting there thinking like they need. I don't think they need to change too much. They don't need much tweaking. Number 4 is the one that like occupies this like interesting place in most people's hearts, but actually doesn't always live up to how good we remember it being. So this one kind of deserved some reworking.
Right.
The other ones don't even really need it. So you may as well just see what you can do to fix number 5.
Yeah, I mean, with 4, I lied to myself for decades about how good it was. I thought it was my favorite. I thought it was like amazing.
Yeah.
And then I rewatched it. I'm like, all right, number 1's my favorite.
We had to talk about this. I remember where I told you I was like, I rewatched it.
You broke my entire worldview.
I was like, it's not like it's good. It's good for what it is, Rocky 4, but it's not what you remember. You're like, what are you talking about?
It was too mindless.
And then you watched it.
It was just an action movie basically.
So people in the chat are agreeing they want to see a recut of Rocky 5, but Jamie Lester says there is an alternative cut to Rocky 5, and Jamie's seen it. Michael says that's true.
Yo, post the link.
Yeah. All right, guys.
Wait, someone released it on YouTube.
I was gonna say, is
so
it
it's like a fan
official or a fan made? Like maybe Topher Grace made it.
I was gonna say Topher Grace.
Oh wait, yeah. What did he do?
Star Wars.
Yeah, he took the original. He took the Rocky prequel trilogy, the Star Wars prequel trilogy, and I think recut it into one 90-minute movie. Then he did the same thing for something else, but so maybe he cut a Rocky.
He should have done Spider-Man 3.
Yeah.
He's got rid of Sandman and replace himself with another actor for Venom.
I don't think, we're getting off track. Forget that. Yeah, so this is what I was going to say, Jamie.
Oh, the director of...
Yeah, so what's funny is that I think Rocky 2 through 4 were directed by Stallone.
Yeah.
Somebody else, John Avildsen, directed Rocky 1, who also directed Karate Kid. And he came back for Rocky 5, so you would think, all right, back to basics, we're going to make a great movie. And then we got Tommy Gunn. I think that was his name, right? Yeah, so I guess I would pick Rocky.
So he made his own alternative cut to it?
No. He directed Rocky 5.
I know. I'm just reading the YouTube comments.
Oh, okay. So yeah, according to Jamie, the director recut the movie and released it on YouTube.
Well, we need a fact check on that.
Yeah, if I was in the audience, so the Q&A was streamed from Philadelphia. If I were in the audience in Philadelphia tonight, I would have shouted that out to be like, Stallone, do you have any comment on John Avildsen releasing a director's cut of Rocky 5? And I'd be like, yeah, it's great. You should watch it. Okay, if I had to choose one to be recut, I would be tempted to choose 5, just as people are saying in the chat. Any change to that movie would be an improvement, but I wouldn't want to torture Stallone to have him rewatch that movie. I saw an interview with him where he was asked to rate each Rocky movie out of 10, and he was very honest about it. I think he gave Rocky 5 a 0.
Wow.
But I think he also gave Rocky 2 like a 0, which I totally disagree with. So, I don't know.
Give it a 0?
He's a Stallone guy. I remember him being harsher on Rocky 2 than I was.
All right, then he should recut Rocky 2 then.
There you go. This is what I want to see. A super cut of all of them mashed together into like a 4-hour epic. Intercut Godfather 2 style with scenes in the present day, shot with new footage of Stallone. That's a great idea.
If they had to compress all that to 4 hours, then it would just have the same issue the original Rocky 4 had, or it would just feel like they're rushing everything.
Russian everything?
Russian everything.
No pun intended. Yeah. Okay, with that, I think it's time to wrap up. All right, well, I'll say thank you everybody for joining. This was a lot of fun. I love Rocky. Like I said, favorite movie of all time, so getting to watch one of the OG Rocky movies in theaters was amazing. So all I'll say is if you enjoyed this video, please like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon. We are trying to do movie reviews every week around this time, so Thursday nights, probably around at 9 or 10 Eastern Standard Time. So make sure you're subscribed so you get notified the next time we go live. We will also be releasing these as podcasts, so check out the description if you'd rather listen instead of looking at us. But then you miss out on fun stuff like patriotism and things like that. So with that, thank you for watching, and see you on the next
One Take.